I hope this is working. Hello, everyone. This is Miss Hawkins, and I couldn't find a single video that explained economics the way that I wanted to explain economics. So, instead, I'm going to make my own. We'll see how this goes. Thank you, PowerPoint, for figuring it out. So, I'm going to be reviewing with you guys some economic terms that you are going to need to know and understand to understand the economy. And we're talking a lot about the economy right now with the current global situation, so I figured it was a good time for us to learn about it. So the economy, like economics, what is it? Economics is the study of decisions people want to make. Let's try that again. It's the study of decisions people make to meet their needs and their wants. So it's that process of how we get what we need, get what we want, what we do to get what we need and what we want. And this isn't just involving money. This often is trade, bartering, all different kinds of ways that you get what you need to get. It's not all just about the money, unfortunately. The first one that we're going to talk about is your needs. So economics is the study of how we get our needs and wants. What are our needs? Our needs are things that you have to live. That includes water, food, sometimes shelter, things like that. Things that you absolutely have to live. Your cell phone does not count. TikTok does not count. Netflix does not count, unfortunately. This is the bare necessities that you need to live. And right now we're actually having a modern debate over what should be considered a need. Right now we're talking about whether or not internet would be considered a need, because so many people have to use internet, whether for their job, for online schooling, for communication, whatever. So many people need internet. Healthcare. Is healthcare a need? Do people need to have access to affordable medicine? Does every single person need that? And education. You hear a lot nowadays that a lot of people say that you can't get a good job without a bachelor's degree, which isn't true. But why make that prohibitively expensive if it's a need? Do we need to go to college? We don't know. That's what we're debating right now. Our wants are things that we want. Pretty simple. It's things we would like to have. So video games, toys, dessert, whatever have you. Things that you would want. Things that are luxuries. Things that it would make you happy to have, but you can live without. Resources are things people use to make goods and services. Oftentimes this will include not only the physical items, like the wood that you need to build a house, but the labor that it takes to build a house. If you have no construction workers and a bunch of wood, you can't build a house, and vice versa. If you have a bunch of construction workers and no wood, you can't build a house. You might have other materials, but you know what I mean. When we don't have those resources, we call that scarcity of resources. So that is when we can't find any at all. They're scarce. That means to be empty, to not be around, to be unavailable. So if you go to the store and there's no toilet paper left on the shelves, that toilet paper is considered scarce.
I have so many resources. I got plants, a tree, rocks, that thing. This is great.
My resources are so scarce. I have nothing.
Our next thing that we're going to talk about is trade-offs. Trade-offs are when you have to give up something you already have for something you want. So the easiest way to think about this is money for food. I have money. McDonald's has food. I want food. My trade-off there is that I have to give them the money for them to give me the food. I can't just go in there and take it. All right? So I have to give something up to get something else. That is that trade-off. More often than not, and nowadays it's money, but back in the days it wasn't. Back in the day, you would trade a lot more of goods. Things like salt and spices were extremely valuable. Gold, jewels, all that kind of stuff, and eventually even slaves were what was traded instead of money. But those were those trade-offs. It cost somebody the resources and the effort and everything like that to make the salt usable, to get the spices dried and ready to go. It's not worthless. It's a cost in and of itself. So when we're talking about cost, we talk about costs and benefits. When making decisions, we have to weigh those costs and benefits. If you've heard of weighing pros and cons, it's the same kind of thing. Reese cups are really good, but they cost money. A decent amount for what they are, if we're being honest. They don't have that much nutritional value, but they make us happy. They taste very good. Maybe give us an extra little bit of sugar when we need it. So my cost here is that I have to pay the money. My benefit here is that I enjoy it. Maybe add a sugar boost if I'm really tired. A big one that we see a lot of the time, especially as an adult, is paying more for specific products. So green products, which is environmentally friendly products, organic products, name brand products, anything that is a special version of what you're buying, you have to weigh the costs and benefits. If it's $1 more to get a bunch of bananas that say organic on them, is it worth it? Well, my cost here is that $1, and the benefits is that it could be considered what is organic, and that is up to you whether or not you value that label of organic or not. Same with name brand. There are some things that have to be name brand, or they just don't taste the same, work the same way, whatever have you. Or at least for most of us, we can all think of something that's like, no, I need the name brand of that. So you're paying more for that name, for that quality that you expect. So it's got a bigger cost, but you're expecting a benefit out of that additional cost. Now, opportunity costs, if you've ever heard this phrase, your opportunity cost is whatever you give up in that decision-making process. So if I'm giving McDonald's my money for food, I'm giving up that money. My opportunity cost is the value of that money to get the food. Or if I'm deciding I would like to go get some vegetables and I can get 3 zucchini. So I got $10 here. I don't know how much they actually are. I got $10. I can buy 3 zucchini or 5 carrots. And I decide to go for the carrots. My opportunity cost there is the zucchini. Now if I throw a third option in there and say I could get 6 apples instead, but I still go with the carrots, my opportunity cost would then include the apples and the zucchini at the same time. But it would be an or, right? Because I can only get one of those groups. So I can only get the carrots or only get the zucchini. So the opportunity cost is what you give up to get your ultimate decision. The last term that we're going to talk about here is supply and demand. You're going to hear supply and demand for the rest of your life. It determines the costs of things, financially, money-wise. It determines how much there is of something, whether or not it even exists. Supply and demand is a huge one because we live in kind of a capitalistic economy. We're going to talk about that more later. Supply is obviously the amount of a good or service that you have or you can make. So if you have a warehouse full of toilet paper, you have a warehouse full of toilet paper. That's your supply. Demand is the amount of people who want or need the good or service. Right now, because of what is going on, the demand for toilet paper is through the roof. So it creates this dynamic between supply and demand. How much we have, how much we can make, and how much people want it that we use to determine our prices. If you have low supply and high demand, that typically makes it very, very expensive. For example, right now, you cannot buy a Nintendo Switch. They're completely sold out. But people are taking every opportunity to go find them at stores when they do get restocked and selling them on Amazon for $200 to $300 more than they're worth. That is because the supply is low, but the demand is high. A lot of people want the Switch right now, and they want it immediately. They don't want to wait for it. So they're buying it from people at a higher cost to them for the same benefit as if, a few weeks ago when there was a ridiculous amount of Nintendo Switches and nobody had to worry about it. So low supply, high demand is going to raise the price of something drastically. That goes with gas prices too. Gas prices are huge for this kind of thing. If we don't have access to gasoline for our cars, the price starts going up and up and up and up, and it's almost immediate. So you can see the change in supply and demand. Right now, gas prices are very low because people aren't commuting to work. They're not commuting for pleasure. They're not going anywhere. We're all stuck at home. So gas is really, really, really low. So when you have a high supply and a low demand, your cost drops significantly. Because they have a bunch of stuff that they would like to sell. They want to get rid of that toilet paper. They want to get rid of that gasoline. But nobody's buying it. So they keep marking it down, like clearance items, for sale items. They go on sale because there's just too many of them. They got to get rid of them. They got to get ready for the next best thing. So they mark it down to the point where a person doing a cost-benefit analysis, meaning you're trying to decide, is it worth what I have to pay for it? You'd be like, oh, you know what? I wasn't going to pay $3 for that box of cereal, but I'll pay $1 for that box of cereal. That sounds much better. We've all probably done that at some point, right? So, supply and demand becomes this very interesting thing where we're trying to reach an equilibrium. Ideally, you want to be somewhere in the middle. You want to have a decent amount of supply and a decent amount of demand. That way your prices are not fluctuating. You can set a relatively stable price if you have a stable supply and a stable demand. You don't have to mark things down. You don't have to mark things up. It's all about that balance that they're trying to reach. And some items have done that. Things that never go on sale. I can't think of a specific example right now, but that's fine. So what we want is that equilibrium. It's hard to reach. That's probably why I can't think of a specific example. It's hard to reach that dynamic because demand is changing all the time. 3 weeks ago, we weren't in a quarantine. And the toilet paper was all on the shelves like crazy. Nintendo Switches were still in the glass case that they have to come unlock. The supply was there, and now it's not because the demand went through the roof. I'm sorry, you're probably tired of hearing me say supply and demand, but you're going to be hearing it a lot more. So,
Cats for sale. Cats for sale.
Ooh, cats. How much are they?
I've got a decent amount. I can sell them to you for $1 a piece.
Okay, yeah, I'll take these 3. So let's see. Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. These are selling pretty good. Not got many left though.
Hello. I'd like to buy some cats, please.
All right. They are going to be $2 or $3 a piece. $3 a piece.
Okay. Yeah, I can afford that. Here you go.
How many are you taking?
I'm taking these two.
Okay. Thank you for your business. Man, one left. I think I'm gonna get rid of these before the end of the day.
Hi, do you have any cats?
I have one left, and it is a very, very hard to find, rare, valuable cat.
How much is it?
Because he's so hard to find, I've only got one. It's gonna be like 50.
50?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
The next thing we're going to talk about are the 4 types of economic systems. Four different types. The first one is probably the most bizarre. We won't see very much of it. It is the traditional economy. This is based on a society's traditional customs or beliefs. When we're talking about traditional economies, more often than not, we're talking about ancient civilizations or civilizations that existed a long time ago. Groups of people that existed a long time ago. This is often about people making what they have always made, people doing what they have always done. Like men are the hunters and women are the gatherers and everyone shares kind of deal. So it's less about like trading and money and things like that. It's more about what they as a society value and how they determine who does what in the society. So we don't see much of that anymore, but we can talk about it when we talk about ancient civilizations. The next one we're going to talk about is a command economy. In a command economy, the central or state government determines the goods produced, prices of goods, services produced, and the wages, or services provided, and the wages of workers. In a command economy, the government tells you, you own a farm? Cool, you're going to grow onions, pumpkins, tomatoes. Your neighbor's farm is going to have cattle and chickens. It's going to have animals. So they're going to do dairy and meat products. You're going to grow. This store is going to sell medicine. This store is going to sell this. That place is going to have this stuff. This is the price that you're going to set this at. We need this amount of people to be construction workers. We need this amount of people to be doctors. The government is controlling every aspect of the economy. That way, they know exactly what should be produced, when it should be produced. Theoretically, that supply never runs low. Makes sense, right? We don't want that supply reaching really low, making things where the price of things where people can't afford them anymore. That would be ridiculous. This is mostly found in communist governments, and it's a lot about what communism is. I'm not going to go too far into that, but communist governments typically use a command economy when the government is controlling every single aspect of the economy.
All right, listen up. You over there, you're going to be a farmer and you're going to sell apples, pears, and oranges. You are going to run the store and you're going to sell the apples for 10 cents a piece, the pears for 15 cents a piece, and the oranges for $1 a piece. And you are going to go work in the mines.
I don't want to be a miner.
Too bad!
Now we're going to go to the opposite of that, which is a market economy or capitalism. An economic system in which decisions are guided by the changes in prices that occur as individual buyers and sellers interact in the marketplace. That sounds like a mouthful, so I'm going to break it down. It's what we're doing right now. The U.S. government doesn't tell us what stores have to be what, doesn't tell us what factories need to make what. Apple decides that it's going to sell MacBooks. Windows decides it's going to sell computers. The companies and people decide what gets made, what the prices are set as. If nobody buys an iPhone for $2,000, they don't get sold for $2,000. Simple. The prices will drop to meet the demand. So in a market economy like we are, kind of like what we have, we technically have this next type. It's mostly based on supply and demand. So government's not regulating. This is just the market will do what it will, and they'll follow the supply and demand rules, and everything will be okay. We'll reach that equilibrium in our supply and demand, and then we won't have overinflation of prices of products. People will be able to afford things, and everything will be wonderful. And that's not typically how things go.
Pears for sale. Pears for sale.
Hey, Paul, why do you sell pears?
I don't know. People like their pears, I guess.
Aren't these apples?
What we actually have is called a mixed economy. That is a combination of market and command economies put together. So here in America, ours is a mixed economy. And most modern economies actually function in this way. There are government regulations. Most of those government regulations dictate how resources are produced, meaning you can't use toxic chemicals. You have to pay your workers a certain living wage. You have to keep your working environment safe. A lot of it is how the government's regulating how things are produced, not what is produced or what they should cost. There are cases where we have set price limits on things. We have made it, in most states, I believe it is illegal to price gouge. So during a national emergency, you can't just jack up the price of toilet paper because you want to, because you know that the demand is ridiculously high. There's an emergency going on, and that's why people are buying it. So you can't do that. That's called price gouging, and it's illegal in a lot of places. So that's what our economy is a mixed type. So we do have regulations, but not to the extent that a command economy would have. The government isn't telling you what you on your farm are going to be raising. How much of it doesn't take part of that. It's all about controlling how things are made so people are safe and not being taken advantage of. This makes sure that the government can ensure that everyone has everyone's best interests in heart. Because oftentimes a market economy can lead to exploitation or taking advantage of the people at the bottom, the people, the skilled laborers. You know, they get their wages cut, etc., etc. So with that government regulation, we can make sure that everything is fair and safe. Thus, we have a mixed economy. I believe that is my last slide. Yay! So, this has been Ms. Hawkins. This has been your Economics 101. I hope you all are staying safe and sound. I hope you found this interesting, maybe a little ridiculous, but that's what I'm here for. And I will see you guys next week. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share. No, I'm just kidding. Don't subscribe. There's no subscribe option here. All right, bye.